Where's he go?
All right, bread and butter. Hey, welcome to episode 12 of the Bad Batch podcast. Whether you've seen one Star Wars film, played some games, or become a hermit and have mastered all content of the Star Wars universe, this podcast is for you. I'm your co-host, Justin Samoy, and I'm also here with Drew Crispo.
Welcome back.
And BJ Davis.
What's up, guys?
And today we have a very special guest. He is our dear friend and I was going to say colleague, but none of us actually work together.
We work together.
It's Eamon Finan.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I never thought this day would come.
Yeah, he has a ton of notes on the sequels, which we are talking about. So,
and I'm a known hater.
Yeah,
hater.
So as you can tell, we will be discussing the sequel trilogy. This consists of The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. The trilogy has created a huge divide among the fan base and is under more fire than any of the Star Wars properties, especially the prequels, which were like hated for like a 5 to 10 year period, which they're great.
They're great movies.
But before we dive into the sequels, we want to drop some news. So BJ, would you like to kick us off with some news? And also, spoiler warning.
Just so you guys know, we'll be spoiling them all.
Yes. Okay, so first part of our news. So last Wednesday, there was a Nintendo Direct, and they announced that there was going to be a Star Wars game called Star Wars Hunters. It's going to be Switch exclusive and made by Zynga.
Yep. So Zynga makes a bunch of mobile games. So there will probably be in-app purchases. So you can expect that. And from what I understand, it's going to be a battle royale game, but with classes like Apex Legends and like Overwatch and stuff like that.
Didn't they make like Farmville and like those like
Facebook? Like on Facebook?
Yeah.
I think they did actually.
Mm-hmm.
I saw, so I read like under the comments and everything, and I saw not one good thing about Zynga. People were just pissed.
That's good.
I did see that.
That's what you want.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
It is cool that it's a Switch exclusive rather than being a ported game to the Switch like most of its games that are third party.
Yeah.
So we're gonna play that. We'll tell you guys how it goes.
Yeah, it's coming out this year, probably holiday season.
Yeah, and then kind of continuing on here, this is some news that came out pretty recently. Now, this is more of a rumor than it is news, but it's from a pretty reputable source. This comes from Kessel Run Transmissions. They've broken, just so many different Star Wars stories, and they're always ahead of the game, so you can take this with a grain of salt, but we'll see what happens. As we know, Ezra Bridger is going to be brought into live action in the Ahsoka series, and it looks like they've found who they want to play him. They're going to be apparently casting Mena Massoud, who is better known for his role as Aladdin in the 2019 version of Disney's Aladdin live action.
It's a very loved movie.
Eamon, you seem like really happy about
Eamon's favorite feature films.
I rarely, and I mean this sincerely, I rarely in the first 5 minutes of a film get verbally angry at the movie. And Aladdin might be the only movie I've ever done that. And you guys can attest to that because you're sitting next to me. But I think it was 3 minutes in when Will Smith starts singing on the ship. And I think I audibly said, no.
Nope.
Yeah. But I will say he's a good looking guy. And did a okay job for such a bad movie.
Yeah, he's a qualified actor who publicly was talking about how difficult it was for him to get work after that movie came out and stuff.
I can't imagine why.
So, and he looks like Ezra when they've aged him up and stuff. So
yeah,
I envision it being a pretty decent casting, and let's see if we can kind of.
I didn't see him aged up. I was also thinking like he kind of looks young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, this time Ezra's like the same age as Luke, so he's like 27, 20, like late 20s.
Okay.
Which kind of like fits that, and they've had like mock-ups of Ezra with like a beard and all kinds of stuff. So I saw side-by-side pictures today that didn't look bad, but I guess we'll see if that comes to fruition or if they cast somebody else. But just thought that was a nice little rumor to for you guys. And then kind of to wrap up the news this week, this will kind of tail into our discussion for the sequels, most notably because it has probably one of Star Wars's most divisive, I guess would be the right word, or controversial maybe, directors. In a recent email, in a recent interview, Ryan Johnson was asked about where he stands with his Star Wars trilogy, because at one point that was kind of released that he was getting his own trilogy, and there was no information about it other than that. And pretty much everybody that covers Star Wars, covers pop culture, entertainment, what have you, went ahead and said, yeah, this is 100% not getting made. Now, he was just asked about it last week, and his response was it is still on, still happening, but there is no timeline on the table and no plans going forward, but it is still apparently happening, which is kind of interesting that they would do that and just be like, well, it's going to happen at some point.
What a terrible, terrible thing to say out loud. Hey, you got your own trilogy. When is it coming out? Your guess is as good as mine, brother. Well, what's it going to be in it? Ugh, you're asking too many questions. Don't know.
A lot of people were saying that they think this is just kind of him trying to move the questions forward, and that when it kind of boils down to it, there's not going to be a lot of room in the schedule, because the schedule is getting really packed up really quickly with all the different stuff that they're doing. And it's like, well, I don't know where this is going to fit and if it happens, but just a little interesting Ryan Johnson update for you Ryan Johnson lovers out there.
And if you're out there,
Ryan Johnson, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ryan, one of our loyal listeners, Ryan Johnson.
If Ryan was a listener, I would ask his address so I could headbutt him. Just once. Just once. Legal headbutt in a sanctioned cage fight.
Yes.
That's it.
To the death.
Yeah, by combat. All right.
By combat.
That will do it for news and rumors this week.
But it does transition well because Ryan Johnson did make a fan favorite, The Last Jedi. But before we kick off the sequels discussion, I guess we should have like a quick overview of what each of us think of the sequels as a whole, or do we just start it off with Force Awakens?
Go around, everybody has opinions, so we'll let our guests kick it off first.
Okay. Well, I'll say this. I mean, growing up as a Star Wars fan, like you have the most. I was such a big trilogy fan, or like the prequels fan, that like I had all the merch. There's three things I cared about at that time, which was Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, and Star Wars. And I have tried to do all three of them in real life. You know, you would try to turn into a Super Saiyan and just like pass out in the bathroom. Or you would try to pick something up with the Force, and people would look at you like you're nuts. Or if you got pissed, you're like,
or going to a grocery store and just like,
exactly. You want to believe you have the Force that bad. And I was a huge prequels fan, and I didn't understand the hate they got. Even when I got older, I really loved the third movie. It's one of my favorites. But like the experience of the sequels for me, going to see it with my best friends in the midnight release, our freshman year of college, was one of the coolest things to me. I thought it was our own version of what people in the 70s might have felt, or what people in the late 90s and the early 2000s felt when they went to go see their first Star Wars movie after it being gone for a while. And I loved aspects of it. I make jokes, but like I sincerely don't hate the prequels. I mean, I really genuinely dislike them. But seeing it live, the seventh one was so much fun. There was so much opportunity for so many things to happen, and it just didn't. It was disappointing. Everything that happened after 7 just hurt me. Like I left the movie. Okay, full disclosure, I fell asleep during the 9th one. I fell asleep.
Oh, yeah, that's 100%.
I fell asleep and then woke up at the end. And when Justin told me what had happened, I thought he was lying to me.
Yeah, we were driving.
I thought he was pranking me. I thought the things that he was saying never happened, and they were all had this whole bit against me where they're just making up things as they go.
Ray's Palpatine's granddaughter.
Yeah, no.
And I'm like, what?
we were driving home, and I was like, "So, did you see Han Solo?" He was like, "Han Solo? He was
Yeah.
in it."
Like there were so many things where I was like, "You're joking." He's like, and then so I fell asleep and I woke up. Well, the scene at the end where all the Jedi are talking to Rey, I woke up at that scene. You know how jarring that was, just to fall asleep at the beginning where like Poe and Finn are flying through the universe, and then all of a sudden here's Rey in front of what looks like Palpatine attached to a bunch of marionette wires. And then all of a sudden I hear Ahsoka, I hear Obi-Wan old and new, and I'm like, what is happening? It just goes to attest what a cram of a movie series this was.
Mm-hmm.
That they made stuff up on the fly.
Yeah.
But that's my personal experience. I doubt the seventh one filled me with so much hope, as they use in the script maybe 15 million times. They use the word hope, and then just left me with just like this feeling of like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, honestly, one of the coolest moments in Star Wars was in between 7 and 8, where there was just so much speculation on what the Last Jedi was going to be about, or where it was going to go. And I remember being like super excited about it. And then we saw, I think all four of us we saw the Last Jedi together.
And
And
then we saw the ninth one together, I believe.
I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
But yeah, it was. I remember. I think we had a few drinks, so I was like,
we did
the Last Jedi. But then after going back and like seeing it several times, it was definitely a letdown from the Force Awakens.
Dude, I just remember seeing, like, when we left the theater, I remember being like, should I like looked at Drew and I was like, because Drew would know better than anybody, because I was so disappointed, but I didn't want to be like, am I the only one who feels like that was a letdown? And Drew's like, it could go. There's a lot of places it could go. And Drew's trying his hardest to be an optimist about the situation, because the last scene, obviously, spoilers, but like, obviously the last scene is the kid picking up a broom with the Force. The Force just apparently is whatever the director wants it to be. He's like, hey, by the way, that kid can pick up a broom. Did they ever explain that at all, ever again?
Never went back to it.
No, of course not.
Definitely a Ryan Johnson, like, let's throw that in there.
Hey, by the way, everybody has the Force and it doesn't matter anymore. It's like, oh,
that was
okay, cool. Yeah. And then I look at Drew at the end. I'm like, so does that mean everybody has a Force? He's like, Drew was like, I think maybe. He's like, he could also be somebody. I'm like, all right, that's fair.
I thought maybe they were setting him up or something, and I was just trying to like come up with a solution in my mind.
I think that's everybody's like first impression. They had to put it together themselves, being like, it wasn't a bad movie. It just, you didn't get it at first. And then when you watch it over and over again, you're like, this sucks.
We kind of watched it. I thought there were supposed to be 3 movies.
Oh, God, this sucks.
Yeah, some of the decision making with the Last Army, and a lot of the decision making with, I mean, there's such a long list with like Snoke, with Luke, with I mean, Rey too, or like how the 3 main characters don't see each other until like the last moment where Rey's holding up the rocks and they're escaping Crate. Like literally, so we're like getting 3 different stories, which is like fine. Like the Lord of the Rings did it with Aragorn, Frodo, and then Gandalf having their own like thing, but it made sense. And it was like that the whole time.
There was synergy.
Well, here's maybe a better way to like frame it. When we're like thinking about the sequels in general, and you're looking at like it as a whole, starting off from 7 and your thoughts like going into it, and then your thoughts on 8 and 9. How did you guys all begin like going into 7 and coming out of 7 to start?
Oh, dude, Force Awakens slapped. Dude, I thought it was so good. I mean, it was pretty much a copy of A New Hope. But it's like,
that's the thing. Yeah. Like that was what I was going to say.
But I mean, I thought Rey was at her most interesting in The Force Awakens, like a scavenger living on her own. Finn, dude, like it's hard not to talk about in the whole trilogy because he could have been the coolest character,
best character there is.
Like left Stormtrooper Academy life, whatever, and then was on the run. He's like, I'm gonna join the Resistance, and then he always has like that thought of running throughout the rest of the trilogies or the rest of the trilogy until the Rise of Skywalker. Like at the
then it is a heist side mission for no apparent reason.
for no reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the seventh one for me, like Justin said, there was so much like promise to so many different characters, and watching it again, like after watching the cumulative sequels, the amount of things they could have done with that franchise, and I'm sure they would have done with the franchise. I think Finn was a Jedi. I personally
has
believe
been a Jedi.
he should have been a Jedi, and there was things in the movie that hinted towards it, where I think JJ had some sort of consultation with, either George Lucas or anybody who's in the program, and we're like, let's hint at him being Force sensitive, and he absolutely was. There's certain scenes where he's sensing people that are on the planet before there are any visual cues. There's certain things that he does. He's the first one to pick up the lightsaber, and there's certain things that they did with that character that totally opened the door for him being a main Jedi character. I'm not saying Rey wouldn't as well have been a Jedi. It's just you could have had.
They both should have been Jedi.
I agree.
There's no reason for there only to be one Jedi.
Exactly. The fault, when Rian Johnson talks about subverting ideas of a franchise that has been nothing but a cash cow for him, is like you subvert a traditional ideal by saying, instead of one Jedi, you can have 2 or 3. The rule of 2 doesn't really extend this far because it's the sequels. We can make it to be whatever we want it to be. You don't just say like, oh, by the way, Finn's nobody and Rey's parents are nobody. Rey's nobody. It's like, that's not subverting ideas. That's not subverting anything.
And then you immediately change it.
Yeah, and then you're ruining it again. And the thing is, like, I think Finn was such a good character that they did so poorly with. And Rey, yeah, like, she was obviously her most interesting in the 7th movie. So many things were going on with her, but the thing is, when the movies progress, she has no stakes. She has no risks. She's a character that has absolutely nothing to lose and loses nothing.
Well, it goes back to the whole thing about, like, the sequels in general are, like, you can look at them. The best way to tell people this is, like, it's a bad, like, trilogy. The movies don't really mesh well together. The movies don't really intertwine that well. There's a lot of, like, blatant questions that leave you confused, like we've been talking about, for the last, like, 20 minutes about it. And it all boils down to, like, the outside world of Star Wars, right? Like, it's like it was a complete and utter lack of direction and a lack of, like, consultation with one another, and too much freedom. There wasn't a showrunner. There wasn't someone to keep this place on track. Like, the storyboard group had no say whatsoever. So we were a completely redundant position pretty much for this entire period of time. And you have the head of Lucasfilm telling every director, you can do whatever you want to do. So and then someone takes advantage of that situation, which a lot of people probably would. So then they go back, right? And they're supposed to, like, 9 was supposed to be Trevorrow. 9 was supposed to be a 100% different film. But at the last second, from the backlash of The Last Jedi, and from the, like, loss in money from Solo due to the backlash from Last Jedi, they were tail spinning and took the movie away from Colin Trevorrow and just wanted to go safe again with JJ. But
so they added is that when they added Palpatine?
Late. There was no plan. That was never
exactly. And that's what we were talking about the other day, Drew, is that it felt like when you watch these things all the way through, it feels like you're making it up on the spot. It feels like, so we were talking about this. Yeah. So we're talking about this, right? So we're talking about this to each other. It like physically, like in the script, like the way these characters deliver their lines to each other, it's like, oh no, Palpatine's alive. Oh boy, just got to kill him now. Wait, is he dead? Like, all these kind of things are like, they're making it up on the spot. They have no conducive storyline that makes any semblance of a minimal amount of sense.
And not to help either, that the 2 directors that were now given this, so now there's only 2 instead of 3, did not get along from multiple reports and genuinely did not want to collaborate with one another. There was apparently there was one thing that, like, JJ didn't really, like, agree with the decisions that Ryan made because I mean, I'm sure stuff we'll talk about in a minute when we go deeper on The Last Jedi, but JJ asked Ryan to not kill Luke, right?
Yeah.
His one thing, he said, I'll only ask you to change one thing. Don't kill Luke because you're putting me in a terrible, terrible position where I had to explain none of this is like making sense, right?
Yeah.
And Ryan just said, no, it's my movie.
So but I feel like we're gonna get into the specifics of each one. So I'll ask you guys, what are some of your favorite things about Seven? Like, give me some pros of Seven, because I feel like I've been rambling about all three movies. What are your pros of Seven?
Here, I'll go first.
Mhm.
So the way everything, like I like the updated special effects and everything. Compared to the prequels and the original trilogy. The other thing was the potential it had. It had a lot of potential, but we all saw where that went. That's really like the potential and how it looked was like it for me.
Yeah, I think that the nostalgia was cool for a movie. The like BJ said, special effects were like really, really cool. I thought Kylo Ren as a character really kind of like jumped off the page and was like, I guess it's a way to say it, but yeah, I think his character was good. I think it, like you're saying, that there was a lot of promise coming out of that movie. I saw the movie 6 times in theaters.
Yeah.
I saw it
Awakens
twice
is the
in
movie
theaters.
I've seen the most in theaters.
Yeah, I've seen it twice in theaters, and I watched it like 4 times by myself because like Justin, you were saying, but the space between 7 and 8 was just filled with so much like wonder. Like there's no better way to put it. There's just wonder. You don't know what's going to happen, and you hope the best.
And everything that were going on.
Yeah, you make up these theories because I mean, I feel like the creative process was there in the 7th movie, and you're left with these ideas. You're left with these little hints and spoilers. One of my favorite things in movies and shows is when they leave a little bit of something that you can, we've been watching WandaVision on Marvel, and it's just like Marvel does a great job of giving you a little something, but not nearly enough to make it obvious.
Yeah,
and that's what I felt like they were doing with 7, and then obviously 8 comes around.
Yeah, 7 had a lot of great threads that you could follow that ended up just like not really being
anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could compare it to the downtime between how many seasons of Game of Thrones are there? 8 or 7, whichever. Between the second to last and last season. I remember that subreddit, like I think it was Game of Thrones theories.
My God.
Yeah. Deep
every day. And then that came out, and then you never wanted to watch a single thing again. I was like, I think I felt the same way, if not worse, with Game of Thrones than I did with Star Wars, but that's a conversation for another day. I
don't want to even think about Game
of Thrones. Just terrible taste in my mouth.
It was worse for me than the sequel. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah, they're going to be Justin, just too long of a conversation. But yeah, Justin, what are your favorites?
Okay, so obviously the cinematography of the newer ones is crazy. All the wide shots, and actually a lot of them are from The Last Jedi. So like Rian Johnson is good, like with I guess cinematography, maybe not so much taking the middle movie of like one of the most profitable franchises in like history, and then making it about himself. But the cinematography, like this scene where Han is going to talk to Kylo,
it's incredible.
Oh, like, that fight in the woods between Rey and Kylo Ren is like probably my second or third favorite in all of Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say that is probably the worst part about The Force Awakens. Actually, maybe the trilogy is that Kylo doesn't win a fight. And
against someone who's
arguably the coolest character out of the sequels, and he's just always losing. The only one he won is where he teamed up with Rey.
Yep, I was about to say the only one is when he becomes Ben again.
Also, the fight between Finn and what's her name?
Phasma.
Phasma, yeah, that was
Fantasia.
The American Idol singer.
Yep.
I also did like Han Solo send off. I thought the way it was spoiled for me. We talked about that plenty of times on here, but
that was 40 years in the making.
Yeah, Han was. I
don't want to be Han Solo anymore.
But I thought
no.
I just love the disdain that Harrison Ford has for Han Solo and Indiana Jones, for that matter. Just every universe he's been a part of.
He loved Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he likes Indiana Jones a
Well,
lot.
he hates when people. Well, I guess Han Solo is obviously his least favorite, but the way he talks about Han Solo is just, I don't care about Han Solo. I don't know what the Force is. That's what the hell is a Force ghost?
He's like, yeah, I'm not coming back. And then for Rise of Skywalker, they're like, yo, so unfortunately, Fisher has passed away, obviously, and then we killed Luke. So
we're gonna need your help.
Want to be a ghost or a dream?
Everyone.
God,
I
really need you to come back
for that. Actually,
yeah. What was it, like 30 seconds of screen time? I'd be like 30 minutes.
The same exact dialogue from Force Awakens.
Exactly.
Don't even have to learn anything.
But yeah,
so
it kind of like covers 7.
Yeah,
It's very it was good, like very nostalgic. You could say it's like a safe movie, but it just it's setting up to 8. It was big.
Yeah, so the setup for 8 was great, but one of my favorite like Star Wars moments is actually in the Force Awakens. It's when they're on Maz Kanata's castle. Dang, I'm forgetting the name of the planet, but like they Finn, Han, and Chewie just got captured, but then Poe and company come, and you just see Poe in the background killing like 10 TIE fighters while Finn is like running. Dude, that was like the coolest moment ever. Like,
I will say,
a pilot. Oh, dude,
that is a great scene. I like that scene.
Yeah, it is cool.
But my thing is, I have a note in here for episode 8. Poe's a terrible pilot. He's a terrible pilot and a terrible leader.
Okay, but kind of.
I'll go into that.
So was Anakin. He was
exactly. Anakin sucked at fighting in the air. He was a terrible pilot, but he did run he did fight.
He had the Force, and he did have a lightsaber, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that said, I think we can
Federation at like age 11. So
exactly. That part is cool. Young Anakin is way better pilot than old Anakin, which is ironic.
Worse.
But if we're going into 8 right away, I mean, I can go off with the pros of it. For me, the only pro I have is that with a budget this big, you're going to have some amazing shots. You're going to have a all-star cast of names names you don't know that are going to be introduced, and just visually it's stunning. But the first thing I thought of is it's the only movie that I've ever felt that Star Wars isn't just Star Wars, where it's not an immediate cash cow. That's how bad this movie was, that it's not just people who are, casual fans or diehard fans who are going to give money to this movie and be like, you know what, it's still Star Wars. I like it. Might not be the best, but I like it. The first movie ever was like, I feel like, and it showed that people were just like, no, do not like this.
Yeah.
But
I don't think lightsabers touch each other the whole movie.
The only time a lightsaber touches each other is when there's a flashback to Luke.
And Kylo?
Yeah, Kylo, which by itself,
dude,
that scene.
And that could segue into freaking Luke, who's like, you know what, my dad, he might have killed billions, but
that's what I'm saying.
But you know what? There's still light in him, and I'm gonna convince the Emperor. Blah blah blah. And then, in this one, he's like, dude, my nephew might be bad.
That's what I wrote down. It was just so funny because I first of all, the writing of Rian Johnson and the creative process that they had made Luke to be an angsty teen of a grandpa.
Wait, hold on. I have something right here. Rian Johnson says his portrayal of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi is 100% consistent with the original trilogy. Not the way he's described in marketing blurbs, but his actual based on his words and actions character.
Cool. Like what? That makes no sense.
It's bad when Mark Hamill says, I fundamentally disagree with everything you've done with my character publicly to the media before the movie comes out.
So that's what I'm saying. This movie was such a dumpster fire from the jump that the first 30 minutes of the movie, you have the character that has carried this franchise for 40 years, 50 years, throw away every semblance of his character by throwing away his lightsaber over his shoulder, which also throughout the entire plot of the first movie, that symbol of him just throwing the lightsaber is that's the whole reason the first movie happened.
And also the going for humor there, it was something that showed Rian Johnson too in this, There is a very specific way to use humor in Star Wars, and it's very consistent throughout the films. In 8, it's like nothing the humor to me made no sense.
The
Right.
your mom joke.
The opening.
Yeah, what was
mom joke?
What was
when
that?
Leia snapped at C-3PO, he's like, "What's that? Get that nervous look off your face." And he's like, "What?" I was
Yeah,
like,
so
"That was
here's-
just so unnecessary."
There's a thing I saw that was equating this movie specifically. What he was trying to do was the Marvel take on comedy, which is obviously you got one-liners, you got these little punny things happen here and there because it's superheroes. You're dealing with men in tights. You're
And
dealing
that's
with
what works in that universe.
And also,
Right,
in
but
the
the thing is,
comics,
like,
it's just
even-
nonstop quips anyway.
right. That's what I'm saying. It's made like comics were traditionally made in the 40s through the 60s to be like these quick jabbing, like, holy Batman, where you're like, nice. And you read, and you're still in the Great Depression.
I can read.
And so, yeah. So then we're, you segue to 2016, 17, and, Marvel did a great job of taking that same structure of joke into real time because superheroes fundamentally are weird. They're characters that are super weird mutants that run around in tight suits and leather and all this stuff, and they make these funny little jokes. With Star Wars, they're like epics. They're meant to be, you want to believe they're real. You want to believe in intergalactic wars that are happening between these multiple different planets. Sure, a funny like quip here and there isn't going to kill anybody, but that's not the tone of the movie. And when you make the tone of the movie, Luke Skywalker drinking green booby milk from a weird walrus, it's like, why?
So what was the point of putting that?
What was the point of this whole thing?
Yeah.
And something to think about too when you're thinking about Last Jedi, that's just even more frustrating. Half of the movie serves no purpose to the plot whatsoever and ends up doing nothing where it wouldn't have impacted them at all had it not happened. Like the whole Rose and Finn storyline where they go to Canto Bight to find the guy with a red palm bloom and then don't get him and get somebody else who screws them over and nothing happens. And
Nothing happens.
only moral of the entire half of the whole movie, the moral to take away and the driving force is animal cruelty. Now it's worth it. When she says
Now there's
it's worth it,
child slaves on the island.
there's slaves there and they ride these horses away and she takes the saddle off and goes, now it's worth it. Really? Because you didn't get anything you came for and there's slaves there.
Yeah. My
And the
favorite thing is
resistance is about to blow up. Like,
yeah. And the best part is at the beginning of the reason that they're like, this is the only person in the galaxy who can even hope to do this, the code breaker. And then they go, oh, just kidding. The guy we happen to be locked up with who heard all of our conversation about the Empire and all that stuff, how funny is that? He also can do it.
And the only reason they trusted him was because he picked a lock in the door.
That's what I'm saying. This is a
Oh,
multi-dimensional, huge thing they're taking, and they're trying to find one person, and the whole reason they're there, and they go, "Oh yeah, this homeless guy can help us. He picked a lock."
Sir, why are you here if you can leave whenever you want?
Yeah. Why are you in jail?
There's
I
just
like
so much
food.
stuff like that where like, and also like the other half of the movie is them killing every villain. They kill Snoke, they kill Phasma, which is like something you
got
Yeah.
Boba Fett.
killed her.
Yeah.
So it's just Kylo Ren now, which we know you're going to redeem him. Like,
Yes.
so tracked the whole way. It's just like, I guess this is your guy now.
Yeah. No, that's another thing. I wrote down my notes for why this movie makes no sense. And one of the bullet points I have is no one is anybody. Nobody's anybody. This movie has just proven that his take on it is, oh, you thought that was that person? No, there's nobody. Oh, Snoke, this galactic weird, you have no idea who this guy is. No idea. You don't know if he's like a proxy for another Sith user. You don't know if he's an actual Sith. You don't know anything. And then he just dies.
Yeah, I
And
remember
that's it.
Yeah, I remember that specifically like frustrated me. I'm like, I have no idea who this is. Did I miss it in another movie?
That's the thing. You're not gonna know who he is now.
Exactly.
Ryan Johnson was like, "Oh, you want to know who he is? He's dead. That's who
That's
he is."
that's
You want
another
to know who
very
he is?
frustrating-
Go watch the Book of Boba Fett in
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
The frustrating thing too is like we were saying, like so many theories coming out of episode 7. You really want to figure out who Snoke is, who Rey's parents are, and then you have the director of the movie running a campaign that's saying your Snoke theory sucks, and just
Mhm.
like so just going at the fandom to be like, oh, you're wrong, and it's like, what is happening? Like,
Well,
this
and then there's
is making the movies for.
exactly what's the end game for here. But then another thing that we should touch on is how poorly they did Luke, like character wise. They didn't give him any sort of semblance of a redemption, and the ending made no sense. Him dying made absolutely no sense. His death scene makes no sense. So I was watching this video, and this reviewer said that I'm quoting him here. He goes, "Kylo kills Luke. Gotcha. He was a hologram, a Force hologram, but he dies anyway. Double gotcha. That's a double gotcha."
I couldn't believe when they actually killed him.
And then the Force power is making no sense. When has that ever been a power
I
where you
will.
can project yourself by the Force and then be like, have a normal fight scene where you're clanging lightsabers? You know, you're throwing your hands around. All of a sudden, he goes to stab you. He just goes right through you, and he's like, "Oh, I forgot he's a hologram."
They definitely should have introduced more like Force powers before. Reading The Light of the Jedi, I'm starting to understand there are a lot more Force powers that they haven't shown before, which they probably
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also did come out after this movie.
they come out
Yeah.
after the movie.
So everyone,
And now
Yeah.
reading it and rewatching it, I'm like, oh, it makes sense, but it
Yeah.
didn't make sense.
And
It didn't.
What came out?
And I would say, I mean, there are some cool moments in this movie. Like, it's not just like the worst movie of all time. I just know that we're all like frustrated about certain things about it. Like, some points I can pick out that I at least enjoyed. Like, I genuinely liked the Yoda part. Like, I liked that conversation about how the teachers, your students become to do whatever they're going to do, and like this whole speech and
learn
how
from failure.
using Yoda. I mean, his character looked a little bit weird, but that's neither here nor there.
They puppeted.
Yeah.
I did like the Holdo maneuver thing when it cuts no audio and it's just silence and shooting through the ship and split the ship.
Oh my gosh, that was the cool. That was one of the
That was
coolest
that was
parts.
really cool.
Yeah,
I will
completely
say it's cool.
silent too.
Mhm.
Like-
Yeah.
I will say that's a cool scene. Like, but that goes into the thing where I'm saying, like, you're gonna have cool scenes with
Oh yeah.
a $500 million budget.
Yeah.
They're gonna be some cool looking scenes.
Mhm.
What happens is when they start talking and opening their mouths, you're like, "What are you saying to me right now?"
Yeah.
I will say the whole premise of that movie, it just seems like everything's in the right place at the right time, because otherwise it wouldn't make any sense.
Mhm.
Like, the first 30 minutes of the movie, again, like, Poe is sacrificing hundreds of his troops for no reason at all because he didn't want to listen to Leia.
Well,
and he was
Finn
like-
tries to sacrifice himself.
Yeah, he's like, oh, that's another thing. Finn's character arc, obviously, how cool of a send off. Now, that would have been like subverting expectation in a better way if you wanted to make because everything in this movie felt like it was like a flip or like a gotcha moment where it's like, oh, but wait. But like, this would have been a great send off for Finn, and also unexpected. You're expecting him to go through all 3 movies.
Mhm.
Here he comes trying to sacrifice himself for the greater good and complete his character arc, who came from the First Order, now is a rebel, comes through and saves the day. Instead, here comes Rose in a selfish act of cowardice and just explodes into him, which obviously would have killed both of them if it was real, and it would have done nothing. And it still did nothing, because if you notice, for some reason, when she crashes into him, she opens the thing and they're talking to each other, and she's like, "You know what? Love's the answer." And then the laser fires and blows up all of their friends. And then they kiss. I'm like, what? Who wrote this? Because what are you talking about? Love is the answer. You just tried to kill me when I was trying to kill myself to save you. And now our friends are still dead and you're trying to kiss me. The kiss was weird. The kiss was very weird.
That was
Their lips touched. It was like one of those things where she went for it and he's like, oh, okay.
Finn's face during that scene is like,
yeah, like, oh, okay, what?
Like they didn't tell John Boyega she was gonna do it.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. John Boyega is the king. I don't care what anybody says. John Boyega rules.
John Boyega does rule.
That also leads into the like whole like gay baiting, the whole trilogy.
I mean,
it was like, okay.
Yeah, like
that one kiss at the very end
yeah.
for less than half a second.
Yeah, a fleeting shot, a panning shot of two girls kissing, and they're like, whoa, look.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's just so many like logical fallacies in that movie that they're just so hard to get over. Even if you wanted to ignore them, there's no way you can. Yeah. No way. Like, there's no better way to show that than the Kylo versus Luke like ordeal. The whole trope in that is Luke tried to save Galactic Genghis Khan. He tried to save his dad, who was the worst person ever. And he's like, there's still good in him. And like Justin, like you were saying, he's like, oh yeah, Kylo sucks. My nephew is a loser. I do not like this kid. He had a bad idea. He had a bad thought. Yeah, he might kill people. He had a bad thought once, and Luke's like, I'm gonna kill this kid in front of all of his friends.
In his sleep.
In his
sleep. What?
No, I was actually just watching that, and he's like, it was like an instinct, like before he could even like think, he was already doing that with his lightsaber. I'm like,
yeah, because that's how Luke works.
Yeah,
Luke just goes off the instinct and doesn't realize what he's doing when he has a lightsaber in his hand.
The only thing I like about that happening with Luke is that Luke is Drew's favorite character, and I think Luke is so average as a whole. So like,
let's go.
So that's what makes.
I'll be honest. I also thought he was kind of average. I think there's better characters, but
yeah,
I mean, that's
Luke
that's Star Wars Jesus right there. So I mean,
no,
it's just
that's Obi-Wan.
Well, yeah.
Well, like in terms of looks, but in terms of
like the redemption.
His favorite character in Game of Thrones is Jon Snow. So like,
which I mean,
okay, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. My favorite character is Daenerys.
It's just crazy that this movie, when you like look at it just from like how it was written, like aside from like what they did with all the characters and the flaws that we just talked about and stuff, it is a middle movie in a trilogy written as if it is the last.
Yes.
It is a movie written with a finite ending.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, he dusted it off and gave it to the next guy.
Yeah.
He subverted everybody's expectations by blowing this whole franchise up and then walking away and being like, you deal with it. I don't care. That's like crashing someone's car, walking away and be like, you pay for it.
Locking it, throwing the key.
Swallowing the key.
Same thing with the lightsaber.
Yeah. Like, obviously, just there's so many things with this movie that should not have existed. And Rian Johnson is an ego director. And when he's given his own project, like I really did like Knives Out, but it's his own project. That's his. And not to say he didn't come up with it, but that idea has been passed around in Hollywood forever. That murder mystery trope is a huge one. Mm-hmm. He made it new. He made it current. He can do good things, just not. He should never touch a single Star Wars movie again. He shouldn't be in a room.
Yeah, a middle movie.
Yeah, one that sets up the rest of the movies.
Yeah, so like sequel movies, so the second ones in trilogies either make it good or make it bad. Like exactly. The rest of the trilogy. I mean, like the Two Towers.
I was about to say the Two Towers.
Like the best
unbelievable
sequel ever. Or Empire Strikes Back.
I mean,
yeah. I look at this and like the antithesis of Lord of the Rings and obviously the original trilogy, which are just space epics, and then Middle Earth epics, where these universes are so dense in lore and creative concepts that it's hard to weed out everything you want to do, but they do it perfect. Mm-hmm. You can create a universe like that and then lead into other things like The Hobbit or spin-offs like Solo or anything like that, where you can have dense history and dense themes that take different and exist in the same universe and make it awesome and make it linear and make it complete. What you can't do is blow everything up, kill everybody, and nothing makes sense. No one's anybody anymore. Another thing with Rey's parents.
Bring back villains from the past.
Yeah.
For no reason.
I mean, that's another conversation. Like Rian Johnson messed up so bad but then J.J. Abrams tried to fix.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. Like, that's how I always tell like people about 9. I'm like, I kind of like 9 as a movie, but a
Yeah.
standalone movie because it's a makeup movie is what it is.
Yeah.
Like
He,
when I walk out of 9, I was like 9 was the biggest FU to 8 like
yeah.
we could have done. Like everything in 8 was pretty much completely undone by 9, even down to like things that people were complaining about, like Rose. Like people
Mhm.
didn't like Rose because that storyline went nowhere, not because she was fundamentally a bad character. She had
No.
good drive and development, but she was used in a terrible plot line, and they just took that as we're gonna give her 7 lines in this next movie. 'cause
Yeah,
people
like
want
Dominic Monaghan, who played.
Yeah.
Dude, that could have been Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many characters that could have been Rose, and I feel bad for the actress because I feel as if you get a Star Wars movie, you're in Star Wars.
Mhm.
That's incredible, and you were fundamentally hated as a character.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
pretty sure she's like off the grid.
Yeah, because she got so much hate, and it's like it's not the person, obviously, you
Yeah, that
dum-dums.
was really bad. Like she had to
Yeah,
take
it's
all this
terrible. Like that girl got
everything.
a 1 in a million shot to be in Star Wars and now resents being in Star Wars. Same with John Boyega. They marketed him instead of any other character for the 7th movie and did absolutely nothing with it. They basically used him to sell posters, and then we're like, oh, because he's holding a lightsaber and all these kind of things.
And he's black.
And
They
he's black,
literally
exactly.
were like-
See, we have that
Yeah,
in Star
they just
Wars.
used that and then threw him to the side.
Yeah. After they got their sales and pre-ticket sales and toy figures and everything like that, they're like, you can do side quests and say one-liners.
See
It's like, what?
Like, so like, I think we could probably all agree that 9 is a little bit better as a Star Wars
Mhm.
fan than 8. What frustrated me a lot was actually like a year after the movie came out. The Colin Trevorrow's script, I don't know if you guys know this or not, was released to like because Hollywood scripts that get made don't get made. They just end up becoming public one way or another. And the movie was going to be called The Duel of the Fates, and it had so much like cool stuff that actually kind of made more sense. Like Palpatine was in it, but he was a hologram in like a holocron thing, and
Or like in Battlefront 2,
I
where
got
the
like a
G's and the
helmet.
red people.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Like in Battlefront 2, where Palpatine is in the red
Exactly.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
it was like that. Rey had a double-sided blue lightsaber that she built out of her staff, and then Finn became a Jedi, and she trained him. And like, there's so many things that were just very frustrating to find out
That
after.
pisses me off.
That makes me so bad.
Yeah, it should.
Like, oh my gosh, like Array, all black, double blue lightsaber.
Yeah.
And then like lightning hands, that would have been perfect.
And
All I'm saying is,
Kylo was like the big bad, and they ended up like killing him and all this stuff. And
like, double-sided sabers are obviously the coolest sabers,
Mhm.
bar none. I think they're the coolest. Looking, performance-wise, it might not leave a lot. Like Darth Maul definitely got messed up in Clone Wars because of it. But there's so many things, Drew, that we talked about when we talked about that script. It's just like a smack in the face to everybody who's ever watched Star Wars. Because not only did they like leak it, they released it. It was great. It would have been dope. It would have been a great idea.
Yeah. And the thing too that we're talking about, like just as a constant thread that goes throughout all these, is like the constant like not misdirection, but the lack of direction and the lack of like being able to make a decision. Another thing that was extremely frustrating was a little while after 9 came out, Daisy Ridley was doing a interview, and I think it was with James Corden, I want to say, or maybe it was another late night show, but she was talking about just like Rey as a character and the plan for it from the beginning and blah 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 blah, all this stuff. And she was saying as they were going into filming 9, JJ kept being like, maybe she might be nobody, so like just prepare for that. And he's like, well, earlier on, like we were thinking maybe like maybe she's a Kenobi. And then she said that in the interview, and then she was like, oh, maybe she's like a Palpatine. She's like, they were changing it all the way up until like when they're going to start shooting.
Yeah.
And what she didn't realize was like how poorly, like, she was just saying that from like a acting standpoint of like, yeah, it's crazy how things change.
But it kind of confirms
But it confirms, yeah, like you're
mess.
saying, the lack of like guidance, direction, decision.
Yeah.
People lost their minds because it just showed the lack of a plan.
Yeah, I think in the same interview, she says something along the lines that Ryan Johnson deleted the entire script that J.J. Abrams gave him. Like, didn't use it. Did not use a single word from it and
Just
wrote
like-
his own script.
Just like
And it's like, yeah, it obviously tells.
Dude, I don't
You
know.
can see-
I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to split up directors. It makes sense
Either.
for
I
The
never
Mandalorian now, but like you can say that the prequels had like bad pacing and like kind of awkward writing.
Mhm.
But at least it was George Lucas all the way through. He's like, this is what I
You're
want.
having someone head the story. Yeah.
Mhm. And then this one
What were some things you liked from 9?
from 9. Well, actually,
Yeah.
another thing as like the whole trilogy or all the sequels, I do like that the main characters are like pretty well represented,
Mhm.
because we have Finn, who's black, Poe is Guatemalan, then Rey, who is a gal, and then the bad guy's a white guy. Funny, but he becomes good. White people
Yeah.
are redeemable, but
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you're a galactic emperor. You can still be kind of cool.
A murderer.
Yeah, you can
But,
be
like-
a intergalactic conquistador at the end of the time. If you spend time with your son, you'll be all right.
Exactly.
As long as you're sorry.
Yeah.
We apologize deeply.
But yeah, I mean that's good about the sequels.
And Finn and Poe are both gay.
They should have been.
They gay baited it enough.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they landed their ships and they went up to each other, like,
They
Oh,
just
something
used Finn. I was like, you know what? Finn is kind of into everyone, but we're not gonna like solidify any of his relationships because he's like
We're just
the
gonna
first
keep
Yeah.
it in the air the whole
for the
time.
first movie. He's like, "Where's Rey? Like, I'm gonna impress Rey."
mhm.
And then his first line in The Last Jedi is like, "Where's Rey?" And that's
Mhm.
it. And then after that, it's like, you know what? Maybe it's Rose. And then he's still biting lips with freaking Finn or Poe. So
With-
like,
It's like,
the whole time.
yeah, he's like, he landed the hell out of that spacecraft.
you brought back my droid.
What, Conehead over there?
You know who we were saying, me and Eamon were talking about this yesterday. We were like, someone who like nobody talks about this, but Chewbacca had literally the worst experience with the sequels. He lost literally everybody he's ever known.
Yeah,
We did it in the end. And he's like, I met
Yeah.
you like, literally 4 months ago.
he's like, I have nowhere to go.
Yeah, Maz Kanata was like, "Here's your medal from 40 years ago." He's like, "Oh my friend's
Yeah.
dead."
Which
Cool,
in
love
a,
it.
which in
All
a
my friends
book
are dead.
he had already gotten, apparently.
Oh,
Like,
really?
they just didn't do their research. They were just like, see, in the movie he doesn't get it, but they've already flushed that out in books.
Oh my god, it's so good.
And if there were actually only 2 medals given to Luke and Han, Maz is handing Chewbacca's like, "Hey, this was remember Luke and Han? Remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Remember your friends?
sorry about your friends dying.
This was theirs.
Yeah.
They earned
How,
this and
how
you
old is
didn't.
Chewbacca again? Like when
a million.
200.
When Han already meets him, he's already super old.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
100
So
years.
he especially doesn't really have anyone.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying.
find more friends.
He had the worst time. I mean, Han dies, he cries. Leia dies. Oh, damn. Luke dies. Where am I gonna go? And then he gets arrested. He gets taken a prisoner.
we think
Like
he
what?
died.
And then it just so many people die that he loves, and he's like, "Oh, cool. This is so dope." I
That just
love
reminded
this.
me when right before I watched Rise of the Skywalker, I forgot who exactly spoiled it. It was like Fryer. He's like, "Oh yeah, like Rey kills Chewbacca." I'm like, "What?" And then like I see the Force lightning and like Chewbacca almost actually dying.
Yeah,
Like, the way he dies. I was pissed.
How sweet
Yeah.
would it have been if she actually killed Chewie?
I would have loved that. I would have loved that. I think there's some good things about 9. Drew, we were talking about yesterday. It's just like they made the most out of a bad situation, which is still mediocre at
That
best.
was really hard.
But there, I mean, you're gonna get some good stuff. Babu Freak is the boy I love, or the girl, or the thing, the they them. I don't know what it is, but it rules.
But they are right behind you on your screen.
Yeah, Babu Freak was the best part of that movie, and no one could tell me different. When he's in the cockpit, I was like, that's my Babu. Yeah, I was like, yes, Babu.
Actually, my favorite moment of I mean, not my favorite moment because there's some like actual cool action sequences, but when Poe is looking, they win the battle, and he looks at who I forget Kerry Russell's character's name, Zora or something.
Yeah.
Bliss, yeah.
He's like, and she's
Yeah,
like,
he's like,
and he's
he's
like,
like posted up. He's posted up on his like his cruise. He's like, you see that? Yeah, he's got a leg up. He's like, what do you think of that? Can I wear that?
high
helmet?
school.
Yeah. So going to the
Hey.
game this Friday.
Hey, if you're listening to this in the podcast, just go over to the YouTube real quick and just
Yeah, you'll see some great visuals.
see some great visuals.
I
Yeah.
will say
They're redeeming.
another redeeming quality of the movie, I think, honestly, is the Kylo completed the typical Skywalker character arc.
Oh yeah,
He did the same thing. He and it's interesting that I think that's one of the things. I mean, obviously, Kylo Ren's actor, totally blanking on his name right now.
Adam
Adam
Driver.
Driver.
Adam Driver carried that. I mean, he carried the franchise. I think personally, the guy is an amazing, immense actor,
Yeah.
and he completed the Skywalker trilogy or character arc, which is interesting because all he wanted to be through the first two movies was Darth Vader, and he ends up completing the same exact character arc. Now, I will say, Rey just stealing people's last names is a total loser move.
Oh,
Absolute dweeb.
I actually have something for that. So
does it-
I don't think this is confirmed, but just so like maybe it'll help you sleep a little. So Kylo gave his Force energy. Maybe this is a new power, maybe not. Gave all his soul essentially.
Absolutely is.
Gave his soul to Rey to give her life back, and that's why he's not a ghost at the end because he's a part of Rey. So there is a little Skywalker inside her.
That's the biggest cop out I've ever heard in my life. That's like giving someone your sweatshirt and they're like, "This is me now." Justin. If you gave me your sweatshirt, I wouldn't call myself a Samoy. Like,
okay, but
also,
okay. Well, listen, this is like part of his soul. If they like had explained it better, and she's be like, "Hey, I don't really feel like Rey. I feel kind of like," if they like explained that his soul
Sure.
kind of was in her too, but they didn't.
Weird that they
Yeah,
kissed. Then
they
it's
just
very weird
decided
that they
to-
kissed.
Yeah, they just decided to go ahead and explain things in the book that make it even more confusing. Like when they go,
Yeah.
well, it was like, like it was like a friendship kiss. And then they go, oh, and her dad, he's like not like Palpatine's son. He's actually a clone of Palpatine, even though we show him in the movie,
Yeah,
free guy, completely does not look like him.
doesn't look a thing like him. But that's it's a zombie Palpatine per se. It's not really a zombie, but he's not alive, but he's not dead.
Yeah.
So he's
a clone,
there.
but he's not.
You
Yeah.
know the whole thing
And
about how clones look like they're clones because that's what clones are.
Mhm.
Yeah, he doesn't look anything like that.
That doesn't work like that.
I think one of the worst lines of dialogue I've ever heard in my life is the last scene in that movie where she's like, "We haven't had anybody in this village for 1,000,000 years. Who are you?" It's like, Rey. Rey what? Who says that?
I
Who
can't
was
remember
like,
the last
"Oh."
time I asked for someone's last name.
Yeah. And then she goes, "Huh, Rey Skywalker." It's like, no.
And then new color lightsaber out of nowhere, and then done.
Yeah.
And
What,
it's like,
what are we doing? What is going on? That's the problem. The dialogue makes no sense there, and then nothing makes sense after that. It's like, okay, when have you ever asked someone's last name if you haven't seen a person in, I don't know, 90,000 years because you look about 1,000,000 years old?
Yeah, I'd probably
When have
start
you-
jogging away. I was like, dude,
Yeah,
I can
I'd be
see
like,
anyone
oh my
here."
God, there's a person and a spaceship. I haven't seen anybody around here forever. And I'm going to ask this person their first and last name, middle initial. Like,
That's just
What
a
are we-
TV number.
yeah. That'd be funny as like anything if she was just like, sounds stupid. And just walks away.
Yeah,
And then
it
farts. And then
buries the
that's it.
lightsabers and stuff.
Yeah. Another thing with something I didn't find super fun with that movie is that everything felt rushed, obviously, because it was just like you have to grab every thread that has happened and then put it back together.
Mhm.
The dialogue with Hux being the spy, it might have been the funniest thing, where they're just like, they're about to die. Hux saves it. He goes, "I'm the spy," and they're like, "I knew it." What? How did you know that?
And then
No
he just
chance you know
dies
that.
anyways.
And then he just dies. He gets shot in the stomach, and that's all you hear from Hux again. I mean,
Dude, he had the coolest, like, it's not cool being like a dictator-ish leader, but his like speech in The Force
The
Awakens
scene is dope.
was awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so cool, so menacing. And then he's like, I don't care if the First Order loses. I want Kylo Ren to fail.
yeah.
And I'm like,
They turn him
Oh
into
yeah, is that right?
dude, imagine being in an organization, someone you don't like is higher up than you, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna blow up this organization because I don't like this person. Even though
You know what? I didn't get a promotion. I'm done.
I'm gonna
I'm
kill
working
my
for the other
boss.
team.
Galactic conquest over.
I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not
You're
having
so
fun.
mean.
I'm not having fun anymore, so I'm not going to help you, buddy. You're on your own.
Well, it's just funny, like all this, like also we've been talking about, and the way like the actors in general are like looked at now and their characters and stuff, and it's kind of a shame now that like Star Wars is going to be in a position where everything they're making right now is like in between, 6 and 7, or in between 3 and 4. There is no way for them. Like they do have a movie coming out after 9, that's set after 9, but none of these all these actors have said they are done with Star Wars. They don't want to come back. They don't have any interest in it. What the hell are you going to do as Star Wars moving forward, where you're like, you can't, you have to talk about where these people are and these characters that are supposedly extremely important, and now they're just like, you're because of the way you handled this whole situation from all of these movies, you are so pigeonholed to the time period that you can have stories in, because after it you're kind of screwed because you're not going to be able to explain it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is that you have single-handedly made this the worst experience of their life. So now they are never going to be in Star Wars again.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be. And you know what? Props to them, because there's a PR campaign that John Boyega basically pushed forward of just being like, Star Wars sucks and I hate it. And everybody's like, no, you can't hate it. You were in it. He's like, that's why I hate it.
Yeah, and
he's like, do you think I want to hate Star Wars?
well, the sad thing is that before this came out, like before all of these movies came out, John Boyega was like the biggest Star Wars fan, like huge, massive fan, and like he knew all the podcasts, like did all this stuff. I remember when Collider was still doing Jedi Council, Christian Harloff, who is the host and now does Sith Council on his own network, him talking about how like he had been in like conversations with like John Boyega and like on like Twitter or like here or there or whatever, because they were always going to like interviews and stuff. And he was like, yeah, John wants to like come on the show like when he's able to and stuff. And then after all this, he's like, I want nothing to do with Star Wars because like how I was treated and all this stuff. And it's like, it's just a real shame that like you took someone who was so excited and could have done so much for you, and you just kind of were just like, we're going to use you real quick, and then we don't really care what you do after.
Exactly. That's the problem.
And then we're gonna finish your story in a Lego Star Wars game.
Let's go. Lego Star Wars rules.
So also moving forward with the sequels, maybe they'll have to do a reverse High Republic where they go like 100 years in the future and just it's Grogu. Grogu's the whole face of it.
Let's go, Grogu.
That is a really good point. Yeah, it's like because you have to use someone Like there has to be some familiarity.
And Chewbacca will obviously come back.
True. Yeah.
And then watch more people die.
Watch Grogu die.
I hate this.
Of all of Star Wars is Chewbacca. It's his story.
Oh, and R2D2 will be there.
Actually, R2D2 is the true name.
Let's talk about how poorly they use R2D2.
Dude, actually, that's the worst part about The Force Awakens. It's like R2 is asleep, and then there's like we need him now. He's like, I'm awake. Like,
by the way, I was being asleep for no reason, y'all.
It's literally the Toy Story meme where it's like, I don't want to play with you anymore. He's like, we have a shiny new toy and his name BB-8.
Yeah,
BB-8 is flame.
BB-8 is cool, but they're just like, you just serve the same purpose as him.
Another confusing thing about the Force Awakens is that R2 has most of the map. It's like being in a Target and like finding like where the oranges are. Like it's in the grocery section. They I don't understand why they didn't just go to that general area. I guess because R2 wasn't awake because it didn't drive the plot with him being awake. But
right. Well, R2 also knows everything and where everybody is in the original trilogy and in the prequels, and that could have helped a whole bunch. Like with every single thing, knows how everything's going to play out and just doesn't say a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just R2 stuff. I'll let you guys handle this.
Just a little stinker.
I mean, you said it. I also think it's funny, like going back to 8 again. With Luke being an angsty teen grandpa, he's like, I didn't ask for anybody to find me, and it's like, why'd you leave a map?
Yeah.
The whole point of the 7th movie is for them to find you because you left a map. What do you mean you don't want them to find you? I didn't ask anybody to come save me.
I left a secret map in my droid.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But I didn't ask anybody to follow that map and bring me my lightsaber.
Guys, I'm gonna say something kind of controversial. I was not a Kylo Ren fan. I just thought he was a whiny baby. I just did not like him.
He is a whiny baby bitch boy. So like that's the thing, is that every time that they introduce Kylo in the first movie, I remember being like, why is this guy like so pissed? Like they didn't really give you any
breaking stuff.
Huh?
When he was just breaking stuff nonstop.
Yeah, like he's just
tantrums.
He's hitting the wall. You're like, dude, take it easy. This is your ship.
Yeah.
You might blow yourself out of the sky. You're breaking your stuff.
Wait, so BJ,
I think his character's better.
You think he's whiny? Do you like Luke?
I didn't like Luke in the sequels.
Well, not in the original trilogy. You didn't think he was whiny there?
He was whiny, but it was a different whiny. Okay.
I love the phrasing, Justin. I love the phrasing there.
He was
whiny.
He was younger and he was just full of hope. I don't know. It was different.
Whiny with a purpose.
Whiny with a purpose. I don't know.
Interesting.
Anyways, I still stand Ezra. But also that brings me to why didn't we hear Ezra when all the other Jedi were talking to Rey?
Because he's still alive and
maybe I was about to say maybe it's an alternate reality.
Maybe it's an alternate reality. Maybe Ezra's still alive. Maybe Ezra went to the dark side.
I also just gotta say that the absolute huge missed opportunity to use Force Ghosts like their physical form. If they had done that, people would have been like, you know what, that movie actually is I like it. Like a lot more people would like it, I think. But like they just use their voices, and you're only gonna get like all of them if you're super into like Star Wars. But like you just hear some of them, some people are just like, nah. If you showed them, it would make
Fred from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah, what's going on?
No, okay, so I remember hearing Ahsoka's voice, and this was before I rewatched Star Wars or had watched Star Wars for years and years. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
That actually kind of got me excited.
Yeah, I just
that was the start of my Ahsoka phase.
Fandom.
Yeah, fandom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like it was a missed opportunity from like the second it happened, and I was like,
I agree.
That means you have to agree with all of these people who hate Star Wars now to be back in Star Wars, and also stand there and be like, "Get up, Rey! It's me, Qui-Gon Jinn." who at the time just got in trouble for being racist. So
yeah.
I don't think that would have been a good move to put him in the movie.
Yeah, maybe not a good
I
move.
forgot about that. Damn. I'm gonna cut that out saying I forgot about it because I remember it. But so Eamon, you brought up the alternate timeline. What do you guys think about retconning the sequels or making it an alternate timeline?
Honestly, please just do
I-
it.
Yeah,
I hope they do it.
just use the
It-
Ahsoka show to segue.
exactly. That's the thing, is that it's such an easy way to say, remember all this? Alternate timeline, not the same one.
It
Because
also-
now you can just make up your new timeline with the things that you wanted in it from the first place with different characters. So you don't have to explain where they went because it's a completely different time.
yeah,
You also have the precursor, everything else, like how there's an alternate timeline, but that's probably a little more easily done.
and
Watch
there's so
Rebels.
much
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. I know how it's done, but
Yeah, and there's so much stuff from like now it's Legends, but like the expanded universe stuff from before the Disney acquisition, like that takes place in that timeline that is like huge events, but there's no way you could do anything resembling them. Like they have this thing called like the Yuzon Vong, who were like these these like aliens from like outside the known like the outer rim, and they were like able to like get around the Force and do all kinds of stuff, and like everybody had to like team up, and it was like a massive storyline, and there's just no way you can even do anything remotely like that now.
mhm.
I don't know, I just think that like that if they do that alternate thing, like you're gonna piss off a lot of people, but also you're gonna make a lot of people like happy too.
Yeah, I think it's a bad move, but I understand why people would like it. But I just think you don't even have to touch the sequels anymore. Everyone can have their own storyline.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
galaxy's like pretty big, where it's like, I mean, they don't even mention Ezra or anyone from Rebels in the sequel trilogy because they're off doing their own story at that point, I guess. So I just don't think you need to retcon it.
And
You just don't
I
have to bring
also
back any of those people.
yeah.
Well, I guess Luke.
I also absolutely guarantee you that I pretty much guarantee you that J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson had probably zero to no idea who Ezra even was.
No, yeah,
or
absolutely not. Well, that's the
care
thing.
about anything animated whatsoever.
Yeah, Jay, you make up a good point. It's like the universe is huge, obviously. Not everything needs to be episodic or Skywalker related.
Mhm.
My biggest problem with this franchise, yeah, the biggest problem I have with this franchise, and it's a franchise I love, is the fact that we are dead set on just making Skywalker sagas, even if they're not even, because I know it's their cash cow. It's the easy way to get fans involved,
Mhm.
but the universe is massive. There's so many side stories. You can make up characters and just say they're in the Star Wars universe because that's how big the universe is.
Mhm.
All you have to do is reference it to what has already existed, put them smack dab in the middle of there. You have such a creative base to go off of that it's almost insulting. You can't come up with new characters or characters that aren't Skywalkers. Or not giving light to characters that aren't Skywalkers at all and already exist in the comics or in books or any kind of lore or legend. It's like there's such a well of opportunities that you are refusing to dip into because it's not going to make you the most amount of money right away.
Yeah, and I mean that's the good thing now that like Star Wars is finally headed in a good direction with like all the series and stuff that's coming out,
Mhm.
and actually having showrunners and people who are make creative decisions and don't just let the directors do whatever they will and please. Like,
Absolutely. I think The Mandalorian is a godsend to Star Wars.
it saved the reputation of it, I think.
Mhm. And it just goes to show you that you can have non-Jedi characters be the most the most intriguing characters in the show. I mean, how many times have you just been like jaw dropped at the end of an episode of The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, what they've done, and we talked about this, Drew, Kevin Feige is just taken this away and expanded this to a basically saved Star Wars at the end of the day. It's incredible.
The and also like when it comes down to it, like in the world today, like especially with Star Wars, when you kind of like going off what you're saying, like when you need to take it in a different direction, you need to take it away from the Skywalkers and do all this kind of stuff. Like right now, doing that in cinema and doing it like on the big screen, I just don't feel like it's the right space for it right now. Like I do genuinely think that like TV series are. I mean, BJ, we were talking about this like a couple weeks ago. I think you brought this up, like that TV right now is 100% like the best place for Star Wars because you can dive into that lore. You can dive in and dissect and really flush out characters. Like Ahsoka is the best example of that by far. When that movie came out, like that animated movie, Star Wars: The Clone Wars,
Oh, dude, she was
people
Jar Jar.
hated. Yeah, people hated Ahsoka
Jar Jar.
with a passion, and then they were able to build her character over the next years and years on the show, and then she's a fan favorite to people.
Yeah.
So
series definitely has more context and everything than movies, and I will stand by that. Shows are better than movies, personally.
yeah, I wouldn't
Don't agree with that. But I do agree in the time we're in right now, obviously with everything going on, and to build a better well of character development and to dive in to subject lines that would be hard to explain in such a short amount of time. It's perfect. It's perfect for Star Wars.
Yeah, galaxy building too, just to expand away from
Huge.
Skywalker, so it will be good. But is like TV a better medium than film?
Absolutely not.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
Definitely not. Never in a million years.
Yeah,
but it's good.
And the thing is, like, they're probably going to make episodes 10, 11, and 12 at some point, but I wouldn't touch that for years.
Yeah, that's
I don't think you can at this point.
And like Oscar Isaac and Daisy Ridley are like 50.
Yeah, you have to wait until they're like 60, bring them back at the end of a movie, and they go, oh.
Ian McDermott is still alive, and he plays Palpatine. Oh,
yeah, they make him still play him.
I legitimately wouldn't make that movie or think about making that movie for 30 years.
And then again, they're gonna have to like bring it way back.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like maybe just do again reverse High Republic 200 years.
No, we should blame this all on kids. If they just bought more Star Wars toys that weren't Skywalker related, maybe they could divert a little bit.
Then the marketing execs would be like, hey, you know what? Skywalker isn't selling. We need a new
Oh my gosh.
We need new toys.
The next 3 are going to be about Rey's kids, and they're going to be Skywalkers.
I would, well,
you
know, there might need to be another Order 66 is what I'm going to say to you right now. And I think Jar Jar Binks, the cybernetic Sith Lord that he is, will execute it. I mean, he'll go around just killing all of the Jedi again. I think that's what we need.
He'll kill Grogu.
Yeah, has to.
Yeah, there's like not a lot of stakes in Star Wars too. I think we've talked about that before, but I mean, they kill off people when it's like kind of time for them to die. It's not like if
when their contract runs out.
The Last Jedi, I would have been like, whoa, no, like that was cool because of that. And but like Han Solo dying, like made sense. I loved the send off, but it was like whatever. It was gonna happen.
I was like, damn, just like that, because it was his son that killed him, and you're like, oh, that's sad. And you're like, okay,
moving on.
Yeah, next part.
I just feel like the best way to sum up the sequels is just, what could have been is probably the best way to put it for me, at least.
Or, and another take on it is what a hot, smelly dumpster fire of a franchise for the sequels. What a terrible crunch of, it's like writing your final paper the night before. And then half of the paper gets burnt up and you have to rewrite it. And then they release it.
And you pay for someone to write another part of it. And they're like, dude, I'm going to mess up the middle of their paper so much.
Yeah. They're just writing a bunch of like cuss words in the middle. You didn't read it because you're on a crunch. You finish the paper with like an okay
it's in a
summary.
Different font.
Yeah.
Like,
It's in like hieroglyphics in the middle.
And then the last words, Rey Skywalker.
Rey Skywalker. Bye-bye.
Boom. Oh, actually, another good thing about the sequels was John Williams. It's his last time doing Star Wars. So, and obviously
he's a hero.
The score was good. I thought the score was good.
Yeah. So
my favorite score ever from him was in the third movie, the Duel of Fates.
Oh, that's in the Phantom Menace too. But mine's Across the Stars. Love that one. The love theme. It's my reading song. If you guys are wondering.
I was actually wondering right then.
But I guess we can all go around and just, if we're gonna rate it out of 10, let's just get it out of the way.
All 3 together.
All individually think of the sequels as a whole.
Okay, so despite all the negative things we've said about the sequels, I will still watch them and appreciate all the hard work that went into it outside of like the writers or the writer being like Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams, who I've like any of their movies other than Knives Out, I can't really. The Star Trek movies are okay with J.J. Abrams. Super 8 was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know. I didn't really care for them to begin with anyway, but I will appreciate all the hard work that went into it with like set design, cinematography, visual effects, and I don't hate them, but they are definitely lacking in Star Wars as a whole, and with everything coming out, and what I hate most about it is that it made Solo flop because I think Alden Ehrenreich was the dopest Han Solo. So.
I think that might be the dumbest thing you've said ever. And I've said that to Drew. That made me so mad when you said that he was a better Han Solo. That I was like, how in the world could you say that? Regardless,
Listen, I agree. I liked him a lot.
Regardless, what was your final rating?
I'll give it 2 apples.
2 out of what? 5?
Yeah. No, I'd give it like a 6.
Apples.
6.
I give it 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Easily.
Yeah, I'd say I'd probably go with like a 5 out of 10.
Just say 2. Say 2?
Yeah. I'd say, Justin, you make a good point. Everything that isn't what their jobs were, like when the fact that everything that wasn't their job was great.
Everything that wasn't the writing.
Everything that wasn't the directors and the writers' jobs, so literally everything else, the substance of the movies sucked so bad, and everything else, I mean, it was Star Wars. You have a $500-600 million budget. It's gonna look great. I love some of the
photography. Some of the shots you're looking at are just incredible. But 2, absolutely 2.
Actually, I do know one thing that the sequels did better than anyone else. Go back and watch Revenge of the Sith trailer, because it's the whole movie in about 1 minute and 30 seconds. And the
That's what I love about it.
Yeah, the trailers for these movies were actually really good. And I was like, oh,
Yeah, trailers are good.
Because Luke is like, it's time for the Jedi to end. And I was like, oh, dude.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my god!
Rey
But they
does, like, a
did
backflip.
mess up on 9, like bringing up Palpatine. They should not have said anything.
They
about
shouldn't
Palpatine.
have done the laugh at the end of the first trailer
Yeah.
where you're like, what?
We need
What?
to sell this movie because no one's gonna see it.
Like, wow, what was that?
No one's ever really gone.
Yeah. Okay. What does that mean?
We're gonna tie that loose end up.
It's like I can't wait to see Obi-Wan. I guess.
Does that mean everybody can just exist?
The Force isn't all living things, and it binds us.
And it's also created by the directors who make the movies.
Oh wait,
Yes.
Drew, you already gave. Yeah, you got 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
Cool.
I think with that being said, you guys kind of have our overview of the sequel trilogy, and like we say every week, feel free to let us know what you think about it. Shoot us DMs, whatever. Just again, want to say thanks for Eamon for coming on this week.
Thank you guys for having me. I really had fun.
Yeah, it was a good discussion. So, like as you all know, you can find us at the Bad Batch Pod on Instagram, on YouTube. Check it out. This will probably be definitely an episode you want to check out on YouTube, I'd say. So check that out. Bad Batch Pod on Twitter, and then you guys can plug whatever the heck you want.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts too. You can message us on any of our social platforms, and that includes YouTube. So it's the Bad Batch Podcast, or for Twitter, the Bad Batch Pod. And thank you, Eamon, for coming on and giving us your thoughts. Honestly, very well prepared. Not that I wasn't expecting that, but very good. And I think you can follow him. It's a controversial. Actually, it's not controversial. It's El Chico Malo 666, and he likes 666
Yes.
because the Rugrats Go Wild movie came out June 6, 2006. So
That is actually one of my favorite movies.
yeah, Wild Thornberries, Rugrats. Was there another show in there? I don't know, but yes, thank you for coming on, and make sure you follow us on all our stuff.
Eamon, was there anything you wanted to plug before we wrap
Oh,
up?
I don't do anything. So no, absolutely not. I'm good.
Perfect.
I just want to say thank you guys for having me on. That's awesome.
Yeah, honestly, very well prepared, better than Fryer. So just kidding, Brandon, if you're listening. But we'll have
No, he's not kidding. Shut up.
Don't tell him this is in it. Let's see if he listens to the whole thing.
It's at the very end of the. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Cool.
Alright.
Well, see you guys next week.
thanks.